Hey y'all, listen up. Welcome to the Joyfuel Kindcast, a show dedicated to global joy. Joyfuel shines a light on people, kids, and grown-ups all around the world, doing things for kindness, creativity, and joy. Becky Suzik is our host, our friend, our partner for joy. She's also my mom. The Joyfuel Kindcast exists to increase global joy. Listeners are invited to open their hearts and minds to guest stories, to consider our own connection to kindness and creativity, and how we can use these as gateways to deepen our practice and experience of joy. Welcome to the show. Thanks for listening. I'm Colin, and this is my mom. Hello, Mother.
Hello, Colin. Thanks for helping today. We've been working on a list of questions. What do you think of when you think of joy?
You.
Aw, I think of you too. I think of you bring me a lot of joy. You make me laugh like nobody. But I think of joy. I think of things that make my heart feel full. I think we need to be better guardians of our own joy because there's a lot of things in the world that are going on that try to rob us of our joy. I think it's important we do things to protect our joy. What kinds of things bring you joy?
Life. Family. Sleeping.
Sleeping?
Food.
And food? What else?
Standing up for people.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What is Joyfuel?
Oh, Joyfuel. Joyfuel is the movement in my heart that began a few years ago when I was sort of connecting the dots in my life, recognizing that the time in my life that I was without joy, I was also without self-kindness and without creativity. And when I started doing things to bring creativity and kindness back into my life, I found that I had joy again. And I felt a responsibility after realizing that kindness and creativity had brought all this joy back into my life. I felt a responsibility that I needed to tell people about it so that they could help. If they had lost their way with joy, that they could help find their way back and have joy again. So Joyfuel started out as an e-course that I offered for people around the world. And as part of that, I created a little video show, where I interviewed people who were doing things for kindness, creativity, and joy. And then this year, it reemerged that felt that doing Joyfuel and doing work for joy was more important than ever. And now the Joyfuel podcast is reborn with season 2, and Joyfuel will feature people again, this time audio only, no video at this point, doing things around the world for kindness, creativity, and joy.
What made you decide to do a podcast?
I don't know if you know this, but I went to school for broadcast journalism, and I studied all about writing, reporting news, telling people's stories. I learned how to create stories in broadcast media form, although over the past 20, 30 years, I've been doing a lot of things for writing and journalism. I hadn't really gone deep into radio and television again. I think it might be something that I'm hoping that I can bless people with by talking to them on the show. I had to relearn how to edit everything because a lot changed from the days that I learned when I was in college, when we would have to use a razor to cut the actual cassette tape or the audio tape to splice sounds together. Now it's all done digitally on a computer. So I've been teaching myself with the help of a good friend of mine, Dan O'Connor, who's been giving me advice on how to teach myself editing again. And it's been quite a learning experience, but I'm grateful to be back into broadcasting again.
What do you hope the podcast will do?
Well, I'm hoping that it will bless listeners around the world with ideas of things that they can do themselves when they hear other people's stories. You know how sometimes when you listen to somebody's story, it makes you think differently about your own story? I'm hoping that the guests that we have on the show make people think differently about kindness and creativity and joy. And I hope also that people who enjoy the podcast will contribute to a community that will give me feedback about the show that will make the show even better and better. and also that people who listen will nominate potential show guests so that we can have a really diverse group of people literally from all around the world, not just in North Carolina area.
How can people subscribe to your podcast?
For right now, the surefire way is to go to joyfuel.org, our website, and subscribe on the site there, and you'll get a notification via email when a new episode is available.
How can people support the show?
People can support the show in several different ways. First is the way I hope people will listen to the show, and that is with an open heart and an open mind. We're going to have a diverse breadth of people on the show with differing religions, differing beliefs, and it's my hope that as people listen, we'll open our hearts and see and listen to the humanity in each of us and find the things that unify us instead of the things that make us so different. Second is for people to nominate show guests. I would love to receive nominations through the website for potential show guests and depend on our listeners to get me in touch with youth and adults around the world that are doing things that may be interesting to share on the show. And lastly, they can support the show by helping underwrite with the costs. Lastly, people can help support the show financially. I'm hoping to get additional grants and funding to continue the show's development and expansion, and I would be really grateful to receive any financial support, be it from individuals or companies that are aligned in the vision of Joyfuel, where we prioritize joy and kindness and creativity. So there'll be more details on the website about how exactly people can do that. But if you have any questions and you want to contribute, please just get in touch directly with me.
Is the show going to be on the radio?
I'm hoping that different radio stations around the world would love to rebroadcast the Joyfuel Kindcast. And if people are interested in getting information about how they could syndicate, they can get in touch with me direct.
Who will you have on the show?
Well, I'm going to have lots of different people from all over the world. I've been in a really wonderful position so far in the work that I do for creativity and kindness, where I've heard lots of stories about people doing things for kindness and creativity. And so I'm hoping to have some people that I know, some people that are new friends to me, and people, both young people, like children, like if you know anybody at school, anybody that you know that would be interested or that has something interesting to say about kindness, you know any youth, please nominate people so I can do a preliminary screening to see if what they may have to share would be of interest to our listeners.
How is the show funded?
I'm really excited for the first time in the work that I've been privileged to do. I have received a global kindness grant from the Pollination Project, which is an organization doing things in support of world-changing and world-healing individuals and companies. They generously gifted money that allowed me to purchase the equipment that we're using for the show. And I'm hoping that this show will be able to feature some other people and organizations around the world that have received grants as well, because of the work that they're doing, I know is really incredible and powerful. Additional funding for the show will come from listeners who contribute. I do this out of love because I believe in the power of kindness, and I think there is a great opportunity to share people's stories about kindness and creativity in the world, and I'm hoping to really focus and grow this work and share so many stories with listeners and hopefully touch people's hearts and inspire them with the show content. Early in my career working in public relations and marketing, I learned how to create messages that would inspire people to take actions. It just became this painful awareness that I had that there was a kindness public relations person missing in the world. And when I started thinking about where is the kindness PR person, slowly over time, I started recognizing different people in the world that were doing things for kindness and really advocating for it. Not only the random acts of kindness campaigns that you hear about, but things that people were doing in their communities for kindness, organized kindness, contrived kindness, intentional kindness. And over time, after being part of the Sacred Kindness Circle that was in Raleigh in the Wake Forest area in my town here, we started creating circles for sharing and for creativity where we would make things for kindness. Over time, I recognized that I'd started to become a public relations person for kindness as well. And it was pretty exciting to have that realization that the person that I thought was missing in the world, now I'm being called upon to fill what I think is missing in the world, and I'm making choices and doing things that I hope will bring people more joy and love. I want to thank all of our listeners for opening your hearts and minds and your ears to take in this show and support the emergence of this show. There have been many interviews I've done already, and I'm hoping that I will be able to produce one episode every 2 weeks, starting in about 2 weeks' time. The next interview, which really will be episode 1, will feature the Human Kindness Foundation doing work with incarcerated people. They are working to help spiritually activate people while they're in prison. And it's a really wonderful interview, and I can't wait to share it with you. Thank you all for listening.
The Joyfuel theme music is the song Being Kind by Nemo Patel. Our show is produced and hosted by Becky Suzik. It is made possible from a Global Kindness grant from the Pollination Project and from generous listeners like you. If possible, please consider donating to help with all the show's costs. Visit www.joyfuel.org. We promise to put your gift to work for kindness, creativity, and joy.
You and me will be out of time, and kindness will be all we can leave